Okay, ready?
Recording. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Fleur Storace-Hogan, Sustainability Project Coordinator.
And I'm Trisha Henderson, the Environmental Coordinator with the Town of Oakville.
So today we're here to talk to you about climate adaptation in Burlington and Oakville.
It won't
Trisha?
move. It won't move.
Okay. I'm like, Trisha?
No, I know. So
Okay.
sorry, I don't know.
Oh,
Okay,
there
now,
you go. Okay, we start again?
that is so delayed though. Wait. Why? Okay, sorry, but
That's okay. Play with it. This is why we're doing this. Stop recording. Delete.
say that you're with the City of Burlington too.
Oh, you want me to say that?
Yeah,
Okay, I will do that. So you're good with advancing?
I think so.
Okay. All right. So we'll start again. Are you ready, Katrine?
I'm ready.
Okay. Hi, I'm Fleur Storace-Hogan, Sustainability Project Coordinator with the City of Burlington.
And I'm Trisha Henderson, Environmental Coordinator with the Town of Oakville.
Today, we're here to talk to you about climate adaptation in Burlington and Oakville. Before we begin, we'll ensure we're on the same page with a couple of climate definitions. We'll then briefly move into some government policy regarding climate adaptation. The majority of our presentation will be spent on discussing a local climate projections report that Trisha and I worked on together, and also highlight some impacts associated with those projections. We'll then end off our presentation with some tips as to what you can do in Burlington or Oakville to get involved.
Great, thank you. So to begin, as Fleur said, we're just going to start with a review of some of the common terms that we will be using throughout this presentation and that you've probably often heard throughout your climate conversations. The first term is mitigation, and it refers to the actions that we take to reduce the emissions that are known to cause climate change. These are the greenhouse gases that get released by industry and the burning of fossil fuels and then get trapped in the atmosphere, resulting in warmer temperatures globally. This was formerly referred to as the greenhouse effect. As you can see under mitigation, these actions include energy efficiency, active and electric transportation, as well as clean energy generation. The second term that we're going to be using is adaptation, and this refers to the actions that we take to manage the risks that our changing climate is already posing. Globally, we are already experiencing an increase in extreme weather events that we need to adapt our lifestyles and our infrastructure to. The implementation of both mitigation and adaptation measures is what truly makes a municipality resilient to our changing climate. So we are in the fortunate position that government policy regarding climate change is getting stronger. In the past decade, government policy has supported several climate mitigation measures encompassing green energy, energy conservation, and the electrification of fleet. But more recently, they are requiring climate adaptation to be considered as well. Numerous municipal town councils, including each municipality in Halton region, declared a climate emergency in 2019. Listing various initiatives and objectives within these declarations. These declarations not only listed greenhouse gas emission reductions, but they also called for climate adaptation or resiliency plans as well. In addition to this, many local mayors, including Oakville and Burlington's, joined the Global Covenant of Mayors program, which once again commits to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and to develop corporate and community climate adaptation plans. Provincially, there have been several recent requirements for municipalities to incorporate climate change considerations into asset management and emergency management plans. Plus, the provincial government also requires municipal and regional governments to consider climate adaptation in official planning documents as well. Some federal regulations have also come into effect here in Canada, but primarily municipalities are looking to the federal and provincial governments for funding and resources to help support the initiatives they're implementing.
When working to develop climate adaptation plans, the first thing we need to figure out is what are we adapting to? Thankfully, there's a great resource online, the Climate Atlas of Canada. The Climate Atlas of Canada uses Canada's topographic system, which basically divides Canada up into multiple grids. Our grid is called Burlington Region, and it includes all of Burlington and most of Oakville, which is why Trisha and I thought it would be great to work together on this report. So the Atlas has a lot of information. It includes 2 emission scenarios, one for low emissions and one for high. There are three timelines. There's the baseline, which is 1976 to 2005. What the Climate Atlas refers to as the immediate future, which is 2021 to 2050, and near future, which is 2051 to 2080. They also have 5 climate categories. The 5 that Climate Atlas has are temperature, hot weather, cold weather, precipitation, and agriculture. We also added extreme weather and Lake Ontario, and for those we use scientific journals and articles to fill in the gaps. So overall, the report itself is almost 70 pages long, speaking to about 40 climate variables. This is an image of the Climate Atlas for one of the climate variables under hot weather, which is the number of 30 degrees Celsius days. And it shows the high emission scenario to the years 2051 to 2080. Within Burlington section, Trisha, if you could go click again so the map comes up, thanks. So you could see the Burlington grid and the Burlington region, and that shows the City of Burlington in blue and the Town of Oakville in red, and also some surrounding communities. As you can see, you can play with the map to show more or less climate change at the bottom center of the map. You can also change the time periods from the recent past to the 2 future scenarios. And you can also click on the 5 climate categories: hot weather, cold weather, temperature, precipitation, and agriculture. And within those, there are a lot of climate variables. All of this information can be accessed at climateatlas.ca.
Okay, great. So as Fleur mentioned, the report includes over 40 climate variables, but we are going to only highlight some of the most significant changes that we're expected to see over the next few slides. So the high-level conclusion from this report and the data that was presented is that our climate is going to get warmer, wetter, wilder, and windier. So let's start with warmer. Overall, annual and winter temperatures are also going to increase about 4 degrees, causing less snow accumulation and an increase in ice storm and freezing rain events. As you know, ice storm and freezing rain events have the potential to cause safety risks and extensive damage to trees, power lines, and the environment. Warmer annual temperatures also bring about exotic and invasive species. In Halton region, this includes West Nile virus from mosquitoes, Lyme disease from ticks, and it also means that some of the existing pests can last longer and do more damage per season. One of the most significant changes that we can expect to see is the increase in summer temperatures. And as you're looking at the data presented here, please make note that the summer temperatures do not include humidex. And from what we know from past experience and each summer, we know that the humidex can cause increased temperatures and impacts. As you can see from the table, a significant increase in heat alert days, which is when the temperature rises above 31 degrees, as well as heat waves will occur. A major result from heat waves and a major impact is tropical nights. During heat waves, the daily nighttime temperature does not drop low enough to actually relieve people that are living without cooled accommodations. So these extreme summer temperatures have the potential to cause a variety of environmental, economic, health, and safety impacts. Local municipalities are responding to the impacts of extreme temperatures, and they are identifying what opportunities exist where they can adapt. Municipal urban forestry departments are planting hardier species that can survive these increasing temperatures and the new invasive species that are migrating into the area. Town and regional departments are also monitoring the migration of exotic and invasive species such as West Nile virus and Lyme disease. We've all heard about West Nile virus for many years now, but Halton region has just recently been deemed a high-risk area for the black-legged ticks that carry Lyme disease as well. Many municipalities have implemented heat alert protocols where they extend the hours of pools, recreation centers, libraries, and splash pads to help relieve those without air conditioning. And they are also installing outdoor water fountains and shade structures in their park to protect those wanting to get outdoors. When we talk about energy conservation and efficiency, it's typically under the lens of mitigation, but there are also many initiatives that we can take to also adapt and make our utilities more resilient to the rising summer temperatures.
Locally, our precipitation levels will increase by about 10% from the baseline to the near future, which was 2051 to 2080, under a high emission scenario. However, this is not uniform, with spring and winter increasing about 17%. Now, the concern isn't necessarily that precipitation is increasing, but rather how it will be falling. For example, while the total summer precipitation is expected to remain about the same, there could be increasing periods of drought followed by an intense rainstorm. These intense rainstorms, where more rain falls in a shorter period of time, are becoming much more frequent. Such intense events could be detrimental for residents who could have their homes or businesses flooded. Also, there could be more erosion along creeks and streams, impacting water quality to the species that inhabit the areas. And with heavy rains comes the increased risks of fast flowing rivers and creeks, which increase safety risk. Now, Burlington experienced a major flood on August 4th, 2014, when about 2 months of rain, or around 191 millimeters, fell within about 8 hours. This bullseye storm was very localized, meaning that a lot of rain fell in one area and about 15 minutes away it was dry. Major highways were flooded, along with local roads, basements were also flooded, and creek banks were eroded. This storm cost over $90 million in damage in insured claims, with over 3,000 homes reported flooding. Now, $90 million is a lot of money, but it's obviously quite expensive. But in reality, it was a much more expensive storm because on average, for every dollar of losses paid out by insurance companies, about $3 to $4 are borne by governments, homeowners, and business owners. There are also some things to consider with respect to climate justice. First, if you do have insurance and perhaps you've been flooded before, and you make another claim, could you lose your insurance coverage for flooding? Will the insurance premiums increase? Can you afford the increase? Secondly, basement floods are becoming increasingly expensive as more people finish their basements. On average, basement repairs after a flood cost $43,000 in Canada. What if you didn't have insurance? Could you afford to pay for the repairs? Will you have to forego other payments to carry out the repairs? Will you have to miss mortgage payments? How many payments will you miss? Could you potentially lose your house? Third, if one's basement was flooded and they were the homeowner, they could likely live in the rest of the house while the repairs were being done. But what if the basement was finished and being rented out? Where would those residents go? Now they're homeless and need to find other accommodations. Did they have rental insurance to cover their losses? In June 2018, a report called After the Flood was published, and it looked specifically at the 2014 Burlington flood. They looked at the experiences that basement flooding caused for homeowners, and flooded household members experienced significantly higher worry and stress. Within the first 30 days of the flood, 47% of them were worried and stressed, compared to a baseline population of about 10% for non flooded households. That was especially correlated or linked between homes that had over a foot of water in their basement, difficulty contacting an insurance provider, and also their existing health issues worsened. 3 years after a storm, almost half of the respondents were still worried every single time it rained, compared to about 3% of respondents from non-flooded basements. And lastly, flooded household members were also forced to take time off work, either to clean the basement and also to address health issues immediately after the flood. Over half of flooded households had to take at least a day off work, with the average actually being 7 days per flooded household. So, what if you don't have vacation time to pay? Do you have to take time off without pay? Are you allowed to take time off? Will your employer allow such time? Over to you, Trish. Oh, no, it's still me. Sorry.
Mhm.
Our infrastructure is designed actually for certain magnitude events, for example, 1 in 100 years storms. So there's always a chance of a bigger storm event, but we can't plan for every intense localized storm. There are actually things we can do to increase our community resilience to withstand extreme events with the least disruption and damage. So after the flood hit Burlington, City Council approved $20 million to the 10-year stormwater budget, and that would be for major flood improvements, such as upsizing major creek culverts and creek channel improvements to increase the capacity to reduce flooding. But it's not just about pipes. We also have to preserve our natural assets, such as forests and wetlands. And there's an initiative called the Municipal Natural Assets Initiative, where work is being done to actually put a price on the value that nature provides in the hopes of protecting it in perpetuity. We can also add green infrastructure where it was removed, such as putting in a rain garden. We can also ensure that trees we plant have enough space both for the roots underground and also for the canopy. And we can also reduce our risk of flooding, such as ensuring downspouts are not connected to the ground and drain at least 6 feet away from our house, making sure your eaves troughs are cleaned out, storing valuables in watertight containers, removing obstructions to floor drains, etc. There's a lot of great information by searching online resources under Home Flood Protection Program. And for some more expensive initiatives, there are subsidies up to 100% through the Halton's Enhanced Basement Flooding Prevention Subsidy Program.
Great. So now on to windier and wilder. If you look back at recent extreme weather events, you will notice a significant increase in high wind. These high wind events cause tree canopy damage and power outages, as well as many safety risks from flying and falling debris. Environment Canada issues high wind events when wind gusts are sustained at 70 to 90 kilometers per hour, and they project these events to become more frequent and more severe in the years to come. The increasing temperatures that we discussed earlier are going to bring about a 45% increase in freezing rain events. From past ice storms and freezing rain events experienced here and elsewhere, we know that they pose a huge safety risk with walking, driving, and falling ice. As well, ice storms have the potential to once again damage trees and cause large-scale power outages. Again, on the wilder and unpredictable side of climate change, the Lake Ontario water levels have been greatly influenced. We experienced some of the most elevated water levels in 2017 and 2019, while 2020 saw some of the lowest. These Great Lake water level fluctuations are predicted to increase shoreline damage and environmental and safety risks into the future. So adapting to our wilder climate. Municipalities are taking several approaches to adapt to this wilder weather that we are experiencing and that is projected to become more problematic into the future. So the first opportunity is that municipalities initiated proactive tree pruning programs. Oakville did this in response to the 2013 ice storm that caused major and prolonged power outages across Ontario. Municipalities have always worked with hydro companies to clear these hydro lines, but now they're kind of basing the program on the most vulnerable areas of town based on climate projections and how mature the trees are in the area. To build the resiliency of our local power supply with less resilience on the official power grid, municipalities are looking to generate their own electricity using either rooftop solar, geothermal, or district energy systems. Utility companies are also burying utilities in new areas of town, so they aren't as vulnerable to these high wind and ice storms. Municipalities are developing vulnerability mapping to locate where the highest risks lie within their town limits. This is due to mature trees, insufficient stormwater controls, or even toxic materials. And they are using this information to implement community resilience programs in some of these most vulnerable areas of town.
So what can you do? Get informed, get involved, and get active. Talk to your friends, your parents, write to politicians, and delegate to council. You can participate in local groups such as the Burlington Youth Student Council. This is run by the City of Burlington for high school students who are looking to learn about city initiatives, get involved, and provide feedback. Upcoming meetings after your conference include meetings with various city councilors, the mayor, Burlington Green, and the city's festivals and events staff. There's the Burlington Green Youth Network. They meet every Monday at 4:30 over Zoom. There's Generation Green, which you obviously are aware of. There's the HCC Reads campaign. So far, we've had two where a climate-related book was chosen and which was followed by an opportunity to discuss the book, which was the case with Drawdown, or a presentation by the author, as was done with Sheila Watt-Cloutier's Rights to Be Cold book in November 2020. I recognize that you're too young for this one, but wanted to put it on your radar. Youth Challenge International's Innovate My Future program provides youth across the GTHA with the opportunity to take action on local climate issues and design youth-led projects to make a real difference in their community. As I mentioned earlier, you could check out the Climate Atlas at climateatlas.ca. And related to the climate projections report, I created a timeline showing some of the events that have already happened in Burlington, such as the flood, the major ice storm, wind events, increased heat events, etc., as a means to show residents that we've already experienced some of these events and we could experience a lot more in the future. So this is put on a story map, and it's available at the link that's available on the screen. I also have a blog that I publish about two posts a month, not only initiatives that the city is carrying out, but also on community initiatives. And that's available at takeactionburlington.ca, which you can follow. And finally, Get Involved Burlington is our online one-stop shop for community engagement for everything that the city is doing. Residents can register online and receive emails and updates when new information is posted. And this has been really helpful to reach out to people that might not ordinarily hear from.
Great. And for Oakville, so as you know, and as you are doing by attending this conference today, one of the most important things that we can do is educate ourselves and others. So don't be afraid to have the climate conversation with family and friends. The field of climate change is very broad. So my suggestion is figure out what you are passionate about, whether it's energy conservation, flood protection, waste, food security, and work towards improving it. And you can do this in a variety of ways. You can do it by participating in local environmental groups and their initiatives, or the Oakville Youth Action Council. As Fleur mentioned, you can delegate to town council. We often go out to the public to get their voice on things such as active transportation plans and community gardens, official planning documents, and things like that. So get involved. Advocate to your town councilors, to your town mayor, and use the environmental groups to help you do so. And then you can always take part in the Earth Day and Emergency Preparedness Week activities that many of the municipalities in Halton run each year from April until May. The Town of Oakville will also have a climate adaptation call on April 22nd, this Earth Day, in which we're going to discuss this climate report in a bit more detail and really alert the public of what they can do to get involved and to help adapt to our changing climate. Later in the year, later in 2021, we are formally developing our community resilience plan, and we would love to have community stakeholders and especially youth stakeholders on that committee as well. So just keep in tune to our social media and our website for updates about all of those things and how you can get involved. And if you wish to find out any more information on what the Town of Oakville is doing on climate adaptation or mitigation, please visit our website.
And if you'd like to get in touch with us, there's our contact information. Thank you.
Thank you.